Okay. Wow. I'm taking a deep breath here. As I said previously, we just got back from Unity on the Bay doing a dialogue with Reverend Chris Jackson and myself, and it was wonderful. We talked about the difference between a special relationship and a holy relationship. Okay. Um, I can pretty explain what a special relationship looks like. Okay. It is steeped in the modality of what can I get from you? What can I get from the world? It's kind of a victim modality. Also, a mindset in special relationships is what um, the notion that you are broken and you need to be fixed. And I'm here to give that correction to you. Also, the special relationship is one that amplifies the form and ignoring the content of fear that flows through the relationship. So they have to, hold on just a minute here. So they ignore the content that's underlying the relationship and fixating instead on form itself. The special relationship is always being defensive. Okay. Look, anybody who is defending anything has to admit that what they are defending is weak. Otherwise, why would they defend it? Okay. Also, the special relationship traffics in projection. So let me explain the psychology behind projection here. We project almost every day in our world, but we're just unaware of it. If I get so ticked at Reverend Chris Jackson, which I don't normally do, we've been friends for 25 years. August 12th will be 25 years of friendship. So this was not our first rodeo, okay? At all. So if he ticks me and I'm experiencing guilt and angst, the mind does not like this. And it represses it like putting dirt under the rug, but it eventually you'll see the dirt mounting over and over again. So what do? If I don't like it, I will project my unconscious guilt that I'm experiencing to him. He's the problem, not me. That is projection. We mentioned this in the dialogue, and you can make a mention of this when he asked me, what do you tell people who is bumping up against annoying people or toxic people and so forth? And my answer was basically, look, you basically have to understand and realize that the person who is pushing your button is you, period. So, what I am reacting to is not this person directly. If I'm being honest with myself, I am responding to my interpretation that I have laid upon this individual. Okay. That's projection. And the special relationship, as Ken Wapnick refers to it, the special relationship is the home of guilt because it traffics in guilt all the time. It feeds it. And through that, what results is an attack modality all the time. Okay. The special relationship is all about possession, right? I have to possess the thing that I'm wanting. So let's use A Course in Miracles, where it goes even more deeper. It says a special relationship is one in which I think that my brother, Reverend Chris Jackson, has stole my treasury, my inheritance, my peace away from me. Okay. And he would think the same thing, vice versa. Okay. So basically, what we have done through our processes in the mind is to throw our treasure away by giving it away to another person. So I will put Chris on a pedestal because he's so special. But as you get to know Chris, my special love relationship with him will turn into a special hate relationship. Okay. This is very important to know this because the special relationship is one in which I'm on a battlefield all the time against my brother. I am attacking him consistently. I almost remind everybody about the first law of chaos, right? Which says I have a set of perceptions here, a set of value systems here, and he has a set of perceptions over there, a separate value system over there. It's different. Not only are they different, but my value system is better than his. Immediately, I'm on a battlefield against myself and entrenched in a special relationship, which is doomed to fail. I'm not asking that you leave your special relationships, but to turn it over to the Holy Spirit and allow them to be transformed and translated into a holy relationship, a sacred relationship. Okay. It allows us through the Holy Spirit to take our language of fear to translate it into a language of love. That's it. And you mention it too in your talks as a senior minister at Unity on the Bay in Miami about the unconditioned mind. What we are referring to is the unconditioned love, right? Same thing.
Yeah. Which is an extension of the unconditioned mind. The challenge is, for me anyway, has been for many years, and I've had a great teacher here in this arena, is to break free, if you will, of the conditioned mind. The conditioned mind being the mind that has been birthed as the result of all of the programming that we have received. And part of that programming is this is quote unquote, this is the way an idyllic relationship should operate. We have this idea of what that means. It's been given to us by well-meaning authorities throughout our lives. And we feel very justified in holding to that conditioned sense of love being born out of a conditioned or programmed identity. So the freedom that is potential here within us is the freedom from that conditioning, that there is this prescription that is appropriate to follow. And that, as Kevin was just saying, my prescription is better than his. And by the way, mine is better than his, even though he said that his was better than mine, right?
Right, yeah, sure.
But the point is, I believe what we're all craving is freedom from that conditioned mind, because we want to return to our unconditional state of being. And the tool of relationship, as I understand the Course in Miracles, the tool of relationship is what we use to bring about that freedom by releasing everybody and everything from our conditioned idea of who and what they should be, and not holding them accountable to meet our standards. You know, somebody this morning said, and Carmen, you were there for this discussion, it was Russell who said, well, what if you're like working with somebody and you have a contract and they're supposed to abide by the contract and they don't? And my response was, that's a contractual agreement. We're not talking about contractual agreements here. We're talking about unconditionally loving relationships. If there's a contract with somebody and they're not fulfilling their end of the deal, then there's nothing wrong with saying, you know, this isn't working for me. But where do I say that from? Am I saying it from a place of this isn't working for me and I'm angry and I'm upset with you because you're not following my rules, my dictates, my understanding or structure of what this should be, or you know, in a contract, that's one thing, but can I come from a place of unconditional love, even if I have to break a contract or draw somebody's failure to meet the terms of a contract to their attention? Where am I coming from when I do that? Can I say, all right, here's a contract and here's my unconditionally loving relationship. I'm going to put the unconditionally loving relationship first and say, however I respond to you, I'm going to let that response be born from a space of my unconditional love for you, even if it means that I have to turn and walk away.
That is why A Course in Miracles says this is a course in content and not in form of any kind, i.e. a contract.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's give you the flip side of the special relationship. We're talking about the holy relationship, a sacred relationship, which is the absolute denial, is the opposite of the special relationship. Instead of what can I get, it's what can I give, right? Which I did today. I gave all of my books free to every attendee at Unity on the Bay in Miami. My bracelets are always free, giving them freely. So far, 11,000 bracelets being delivered. My lesson 14, which I use every week during our prosperity moment, to give and to receive are one in truth. I will give what I am receiving what I'm giving now. In other words, this is extension instead of projection. Therefore, it neutralizes the temptation to want to project your own unconscious guilt to other people. The holy relationship amplifies the content of love and disregards the form of the relationship, however it manifests, okay? So the holy relationship does not defend itself because it's not weak, it's powerful. And when I say the word powerful, I'm not talking about the self-image called Kevin Rice or Chris Jackson. I'm saying it's powerful because through alignment, we understand that the Father and I are one. That is where the power is, as I set aside these small self-images in this world. And then, of course, a holy relationship is a bunch of holy instants brought together in a relational kind of manifestation in this world. And it's not about possession, it's about freedom. And I'll end it with this by saying that the special relationship is founded in sacrifice, right? As I said in the dialogue with Reverend Chris at Unity on the Bay, is most people, when they get into these relationships, the first thing that they think of from the ego is, how much is this going to cost me? How much do I have to sacrifice in order to get his love, his joy, his completion, and so forth? Okay? It's a lot of word there. I'm going to just open the floor right now. If you have any questions before I answer any questions, or Chris has any questions. So just open your mic, unmute yourself, and we're here to answer any questions you have. Cindy says, when I first got married, we said, till death do us part. And I thought, this is a bad start of the marriage. You know, when you mention that, first of all, I got married to my spouse who's here, Aaron Adams. And the thing that struck me is, if people look at our marriage, they're probably scratching their head going, what is this? Because we're not bound by the mores or the social conditionings of this world. Secondly, I'll give you an example. When we got married, okay, and we did not want marriage ceremony to be big and expensive, because I personally, and he had his perceptions too, where we did not want to amplify the form, i.e. the marriage, and ignoring what is really happening, the content and the substance of love that was flowing through the relationship throughout. And we've been together for 18 years, 19 years. So, some of my friends would call me after that and say, you guys were wearing shorts and shirts and sandals. And I said, so what? That's what we chose. because we didn't we didn't want to amplify the ceremony and ignoring the importance of the love that Aaron and I share equally that we have with Reverend Chris. So I love Chris. I love all of you. I love Aaron. You're not special, but all of you are sacred. And so I will treat you equally. However, the form manifests itself is secondary.
Then you have two individuals not so much conforming to society's expectation or recipe for relationship, or even for one that is born out of their own their own conditioned mind. But you have two souls who are coming together to share openly and honestly their truth in that moment. And whatever their intention may be, to remain in allegiance to that experience, regardless of the form that it should manifest in. I mean, really, to me, true freedom comes from being able to say, it does not matter to me what form this relationship takes. I'm here for the duration. My commitment is to love you without conditions, no matter what we walk through. And it doesn't mean that it's going to fit into a mold or a model. In fact, in all likelihood, if love is leading the way, the poet Gibran says, and I love this, think not that you can direct the course of love. For love, if it finds you worthy, will direct your course. To which I say, amen.
I'm going to circle back to specialness again. I mentioned this to the students. I'm referred to a section in the Blue Book from the Foundation of Inner Peace. It's called The Shadows of the Past. And in the Purple Book, the Circle of Atonement, it's called The Shadowy Figures of the Past. And it basically is saying, look, you think you're in a relationship right now, but you're really not. And the reason why you're not in a relationship is all that you're really reacting to today is the shadowy figures of the past. Those people in the past who you propped up as a special love relationship, who turned out to be a special hate relationship. And this narrative keeps repeating itself over and over again because we're unwilling to forgive the shadowy figures of the past. So when we begin to forgive the shadowy figures of the past, what happens is you begin to have a relationship with your spouse, with your best friend, your students, your family members. And then there's an opening there. Nobody likes sacrifice. So we begin to enter into that unholy relationship when fear and anger and guilt is riddled into our minds, and then we project it to other people. So does anybody have any questions or commentary? The attendee says, I'm triggered by a former associate. What are they showing me? When you mentioned that, immediately it brought back a memory, actually, that Chris mentioned it at Unity on the Bay with me today. Today is 5 years ago when I got my first brain surgery. It was 5 years ago today. The reason I'm mentioning this is because after this occurred, I remembered from A Course in Miracles that any sickness that we are experiencing per se is directly attributable to the level of unforgiveness that we are bringing to any situation. And I said to myself, okay, who was I not forgiving? Who is I having an angst with? And I immediately found that person. I can't mention the person's name and won't. But I thought, oh. So that day, I called this individual. I'll tell you who it is later. But because I was so angry at this individual. And I thought, okay, I see a correlation between me bumping my head or the quote unquote sickness, and really through with great honesty and pick up that phone, just as my friend at Uni on the Bay did with his father, to say, oh, the thing that is driving me crazy, the thing that is pushing my button is me allowing another person, another situation to hook and run me. But we are better than that. As A Course in Miracles says, would you rather fly with the wings of a sparrow when the wings of an eagle has been given to you? So we don't want to play small here. We want to be honest with ourselves, honest with our past relationships, the shadowy figures of the past, and make sure that every time we remember it and reminisce about it, that there is zero emotional charge attached to it.
I think that this is what I think, which is subject to change in any given moment. But here it is right now. This, when I was talking earlier about the unconditioned nature and the conditioned nature, to me, that's like the divine nature as opposed to the human nature or the egoic nature. So in our divine nature, as God has created us, we are intended to live from a space of unconditional love. And when we do that, we just relish life. It becomes a delicious, ecstatic experience in total elation because we're functioning in the manner that we have been divinely designed to function, which is, I love you no matter what. And that's to everybody, to our partners, to our work associates, to people we pass on the street. It's our nature to be unconditionally loving. When we fall into what I heard you saying, Jan, was that you received as part of your conditioned nature a lot of information that created, you could say, like a different you than the unconditional you that's your pure form.
Yeah.
So then you go into relationship from that conditional nature, and it brings, I will say, tremendous levels of unnecessary suffering. But we don't realize that it's unnecessary, because we think that it's our nature to be judgmental, controlling, conditional, and so on and so forth. So the whole battle, if you can even use that word, the whole issue is within us, between our unconditioned nature, which is completely loving, and our conditioned nature, which says, you damn well better fit all of my prescriptions and accommodate my expectations, which I mentioned today. Typically, those expectations are not revealed until they are violated. So the way you find out what I want from you is by not giving it to me. And then I get very upset with you for not meeting an expectation that I never even told you that I had, and that I might have not even been consciously aware of myself, because the conditioned mind becomes routinized within us. We're always operating out of us, and we just think it's the only mind there is. But when you have, that's why I'm so grateful to Kevin as my teacher in learning unconditionally loving relationships, because the freedom that comes from being able to say, wow, I'm going to love you. It doesn't matter. Nothing else matters. Love is my priority in this relationship and in life. Then it really starts to get magical.
Yeah, it reminds me, again, the shadowy figures of the past, right? So a previous boyfriend or girlfriend, whatever, just dumped me, or I dumped them because they did not fulfill my expectation. So, and when he says you're not even consciously aware that somebody has pushed your button, because they have pushed your button because it brought a trigger to you, because the past exchange that you had with your past boyfriend or girlfriend, the expectations you brought to that relationship is brought to the present moment, and therefore you are blinded with your present moment until that person starts to trigger you and push your button, and you don't recognize that it was me who put those expectations in a previous relationship and bringing it into the present moment. in the present relationship. Yeah. So at the end of the day, uh, a holy relationship accepts all things, embraces all things with love. That's the difference. You're not on the battlefield anymore. And all you're looking at is the past. It's already over and done with. So, and it can be changed or corrected. Now, you can drop a pebble of love now into your pool of awareness, and you'll see your futures and your relationships differently, as my friend did at Uni on the Bay. Um, Intimacy is not sex. Intimacy is being candid and authentic and honest with everything about your ups, your downs, your self doubts, your uncertainties of the future. You know, Chris's bad day. Last Wednesday, both of us last week had a bad day. And we just talking about it, we turned the situation, not with each other, just different situations with the world. But we were just like, man, I woke up the wrong side of the bed today. And I told that to him. Why? Because I can. I can say that to you. I'm not saying that enlightenment does not have those moments. It does ask that you do not keep it.
And know that there's not going to be, this is what I love about this relationship, know that there's not going to be a judgment put upon me for saying I had a crappy day. Like, well, if you were more spiritual, you wouldn't have crappy days, but just, hey, you had a crappy day. I get it. All right. So in that state of total acceptance by another person who's expressing unconditional love, I can begin to heal. Right. You all know what that's like, because we all have relationships along those lines where you have people you can talk to and just know you're not going to get judged. And you also will know that if by chance the other person should judge you, they're not going to hold you accountable for their judgment. They're going to take responsibility that, I think you should be more spiritual. Well, I think that I need to look at the fact that I think you need to be more spiritual.
If you spot it, you got it.
Amen.
So one thing yesterday I mentioned to, today was a weird day because normally when I give a sermon, it's kind of, I spent the week preparing for it. But my spouse, Erin Adams, says, Kevin, you're just over preparing yourself. I said, you're right. I just let this go and let this dialogue just run its own course, which I did. And thank you, Erin. Good advice.
I agree, Erin. Good advice.
Yeah.
That's what I told him last night when he said you said that. I said, once again, Erin gave you good advice.
Yeah, or he says to me, hey, Kevin, you're futuring yourself. I'm like, oh, damn, I am futuring myself. Or Kevin, you're pasting yourself. In other words, I'm fixated on the past. He's authentic with me. He's not trying to correct me. And he accepts Kevin Rice as he is. And he's not here to fix me or improve me. So therefore, there's no burden. So I was reading an article sent by the Circle of Atonement, Robert Perry, last week. And I think you can get it. Just go into circleofa.org and is relationships in A Course in Miracles. It was so interesting. Excuse me. I was reading it because Robert Perry cited a study, Altered States, Scientists Analyze the Near-Death Experience by Lee Graves, the University of Virginia magazine, summer of 2007. And Robert was impressed by the evidence being compiled that these experiences are not just the misfirings of a dying brain. He said he was struck by a particular message that emerged again and again and again with all of those experiencers of near-death experiencing. They had a typical response when they woke up. It says they came back with typical near-death after effects. It felt that cooperation and love were the most important things, and that competition and material goods were irrelevant. We go further. These are people who had near-death experiences, and they woke up, and this is what I'll give you a few examples, which is typical. Another one said, how we spend our time on earth, the kind of relationships we build, is vastly more important than we can know. Another one, after an NDE experiencer says, they seem to know that the love they create while living will be reflected and radiated back to them when they die. Another one, we're all in this together. If I hurt you, I'm hurting myself. Another one, it sort of wakes you up to the importance of other people and relationships. So Robert Perry found this so strange that it really mirrored A Course in Miracles in several statements. And I'm going to give you these statements. Okay. Some of them are in the psychology practice and in a supplement of A Course in Miracles. So one says, it is only in relationships that salvation can be found. That's true. Our relationship with God rests in our relationships with other people. Another one, you have found each other and will light each other's way. Another one from A Course in Miracles, one instant spent together restores the universe to both of you. Another one, you have assumed your part in your brother's redemption, and you are now fully responsible to him. In other words, if I know that he's my brother, there's no otherness here, now fully responsible to him because all I'm reacting to is the one self that we share together. Does that make sense? Okay. All therapy should do is to try to place everyone involved in the right frame of mind to help one another. Another one asks for help, another hears and tries to answer in the form of help. This is the formula for salvation. And I mentioned that, helping a person who's homeless in South Florida. Another one, this is powerful. Nothing in the world is holier than helping one who asks for help, and to come very close to God in this attempt, however limited, however lacking in sincerity. Okay. Another one, if their relationship is to be holy, whatever one needs is given by the other. Whatever one lacks, the other supplies. You like these?
Love them.
I love these. Okay. 4 more. No one is sent by accident to anybody.
Oh, let me just.
Yeah, you have a problem now?
That's a good one. No one is sent to anyone.
No one is sent by
accident to anyone. I really think that's a juicy one because it reminds me that every individual whose path crosses my own is there by some divine orchestration. I'll even go so far as to say, I think I've drawn them out of the ether or whatever, specifically to support me, again, in moving from that conditioned nature to the unconditioned nature. And that is the hardest thing in the world to remember when you're really upset with somebody or when you just don't like somebody. And, you wonder how in the world could we have all of these, they're both dearly loved and dearly hated public figures that are rousing so much emotion in us. And and so here we are at this age of the dawning of spiritual awakening. And here's these figures out there, that are rousing all these different, I love this one, I hate this one. So the intensity is growing. But all of those people, I think, are divinely orchestrated opportunities for us if we can grasp them as such and realize there's no emotional reaction we're having to anybody that's actually provoked by that, whatever it is that's outside of us, that character or that situation, that it's just all exposing the content of our own consciousness for the sake of our own healing.
Yep. Yep. There's three others. When you meet anyone, remember it is a holy encounter. Holy encounter. Even at the level of the most casual encounter, it is possible for two people to lose sight of separate interests, if only for a moment. That moment will be enough. Salvation has come. In other words, we don't have separate interests here. We only have one goal, and that is love. And in this world, it's called forgiveness. Forgive, 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 forgive. I'm forgiving his subjectivity. I'm forgiving my own subjectivity. I'm forgiving your subjectivity. Okay? Forgive, forgive, forgive. All who meet will I love this one. All who meet will someday meet again, for it is the destiny of all relationships to become holy. A Course in Miracles says, to give and to receive are one in truth. I will receive what I am giving now. If you are inspired to support Unity on the Bay and myself, you can text UOTB to the phone number 73256 and you'll receive a link to enter your donation and then drop down to ACIM-Kevin Rice to indicate that your offering is directed to this class. Or you can give through the website, unityonthebay.org/give, and drop down to ACIM-Kevin Rice under Select Fund. Your donation goes to support Unity on the Bay and the time and value we put into providing these teachings. I invite you to also visit onlylovingthoughts.com for all our A Course in Miracles videos and much, much more. Thank you, and thanks for sharing this A Course in Miracles Zoom class with other people.